Mr. Roach, you say that Judge Kavanaugh lied under oath when he testified before the Judiciary Committee last week. Can you explain how you know that he lied?
I can. I wasn't able to watch the testimony. I was in an airplane, but I read the testimony the next day, and I was struck as I was reading it that, I know Debbie and
Debbie Ramirez.
From Debbie Ramirez, and I know from my experience with her that at least from my perspective, there is zero chance that she is making up this story. And I heard Dr. Blasey Ford's, or I read Dr. Blasey Ford's testimony, and I heard some of it later, and I believe that she's telling the truth. But then, when Brett started saying things about his drinking and his use of certain words, sexually oriented words, I knew he was lying because he was my roommate. We were in a room together. Our beds were 10 feet apart for a couple of months. And what struck me and made me more interested in speaking out about it is not only did I know that he wasn't telling the truth, I knew that he knew that he wasn't telling the truth.
You say that he was and I'm quoting you, a notably heavy drinker even by the standards of the time. That's obviously not sort of how he described himself. Just since this is knowledge you say you specifically have, can you describe what you mean when you say he was a notably heavy drinker?
Well, sure. This is a time not long after Animal House was shown, and people drank a lot. You went to parties and drank beer. Many people did. But there were, even within that environment, there were people who were loud drunks, who were sloppy drunks, who were belligerent drunks. But even by those standards, my memory of Brett was that he was on the far edge of this. He was notably heavier in his drinking than other people.
Can you? I don't know if there's any specific examples, or can you say how often? Was this just something on weekends? I've read some accounts that there was a keg in the main room of the room that the suite of rooms that you had between the three roommates.
It was an awful long time ago, and I can't say he was drunk on this date or not, but I can tell you that my recollection of my experience with him was that he was drunk frequently, that it wasn't drunk to the point of having trouble getting up every month or two. It was frequently. I would say with some confidence it was at least once, maybe twice on the weekends. It may have even been during the week.
You say that actually one of the things that he testified about was how focused on not only academics but also sports he was, in particular basketball, doing very hard workouts, and the implication being that that is not an activity that somebody who drank to the degree which you say he drank would be able to do.
Oh, that's just nonsense. I was a varsity athlete and hung out with a lot of athletes, top athletes who can play at the collegiate level, can drink and work out. I don't think that there's anything that precludes one from the other.
You say also that he, and I'm quoting you, became aggressive and belligerent when he was very drunk. Do you have any specific examples? I'm not asking for dates, but just anything you remember, or how do you mean belligerent and aggressive?
I've been thinking a lot about that, and I want to provide a specific example, and I really can, and I should be honest about that. When I say belligerent, I mean belligerent in demeanor, yelling loudly. When people tell him to be quiet, tell him to shut up. I didn't see him personally ever hit anybody or ever behave aggressively towards women. When I say aggressive, I'm speaking more in carriage than in expression. When I first heard about this, I did call friends that I knew that knew both of us and spent time with Brett both freshman year and then after. And I did hear stories about times when he was physically violent, destructive. Those are not on the record, and they're not my stories to tell, but they made me feel like my memories of Brett were accurate.
Those were stories you heard from other students who were at Yale?
That's correct.
By the way, has the FBI talked to you either in any background investigation of Judge Kavanaugh ever? Because a big deal has been made of the fact that he went through more than 5 or I think 6 background investigations for various appointments over the years. Have you, as a freshman year roommate, of him. Have you ever been contacted by the FBI? And obviously in this latest investigation as well, have you been contacted?
You know, I've been scratching my head about that. I was listening to the radio, gosh, I want to say a week ago, and they were talking about